Hey, it's Doug Grimm, and I haven't filmed the video in a little bit of time, so I wanted to throw one in now that the seasons have changed and Thanksgiving's on the way, Halloween is over, and it is still beautiful out here in Palm Springs, and I just love this change of weather. There is such a flow and a purpose and to life. You can feel it in the air. And I wanted to actually tell you a story this time. I've been doing a lot of how-to kind of information. I thought it might interest you to know a little bit more about me and some of my past experiences that have led me up to where I am now. I mean, I've always been a seeker of truth, but it's just been life experiences that have augmented that in this lifetime. And I wanted to tell you about an event that happened to me when I had turned 40. This was in 1995, and it was a very important time for me because things had majorly shifted on many ways for me at this particular year. I was, for one thing, you can read the whole story in the link below this that tells in detail about what happened in my blog, but I thought you might want to hear it from the spoken voice. So here's what happened. Let's see, I tested positive, HIV positive in 1993. And I was one of these people that, you know, it's never going to touch me, it's going to be fine, I'm going to take care of myself, I'm holistic, I'm spiritual, this won't affect me. And I was doing Cats on Broadway 2 years later, the show Cats. You are all familiar with that. I had a fun role as one-ton tugger. At the time I was swinging the show, which means I go on if somebody's on vacation or sick, and I was on for this particular role. And it required singing some high notes, and I remember being on the Broadway stage, which is my dream to be on Broadway, and I remember singing the song, and when I hit the high note, nothing came out. It just wasn't there. I thought, oh my God, I'm on the Broadway stage, and I'm not able to hit this note. A little scary. That was sort of like the start of it. Well, about a month or two passed, and I was on for this very difficult dance role called McCavity. And McCavity's this evil cat, and there's a big fight scene in Act 2 where McCavity tries to kidnap one of the female cats, and there's a big fight scene. And at one point, my role, McCavity, does this thing where I put my hands on the ground, I do a handstand with my legs wrapped around the other guy's head, and I'm swung around upside down and put down, and I do this big pose, angry pose, and I run up to the top of this car, this mock VW car trunk, and I hit these electrical cords, and I'm supposed to go off stage all angry, and I disappear in a puff of smoke. Very dramatic. Well, in the past this would be no problem. I was able to do that, but as I started to feel things were off with me, and yet not knowing why, I was doing this particular scene, and I was spun around upside down, and I was put down on the floor, and I remember thinking, I am going to have to do everything I can do not to fall over on the stage from being so dizzy. It was vertigo. I don't know how I found the drive and energy to do it, but I managed to get my balance and run up there, make my exit, and get off stage, but it frightened me. Anyway, I honestly feel that they knew something was wrong, and they were doing everything they could do to make me want to leave. That's another story altogether. But ultimately that was a good thing, because I left, and not too long after that, things began to decline pretty quickly. And at one point I decided I needed to move home, because I just felt things were off. I had major congestion, more than congestion. I had mucus, I was coughing, chortling up this really deep lung stuff, and I was one of these people that didn't believe in doctors. I'm still wary about them, mind you, because I do know that the body is capable of taking care of itself, but I was very anti any help with Western medicine. Well, I remember taking the train home from New York, and I remember coughing so badly, and I remember thinking, these people around me must think I've got TB or something, because I was just making these awful noises. Well, I got home to my folks, and I think I probably spent maybe a month or two there, and things weren't getting any better. In fact, they were getting worse. And to the point where my bedroom was downstairs, my little room. My folks could hear me upstairs where they were coughing, and they were just like, would you please let us take you to the doctor? And I said, no, I can do this on my own. So, well, it all culminated to finally, after hearing this incessant coughing and coughing up mucus, my dad comes down to my room and says, Doug, we're going to the doctor, emergency room, I don't care, you're coming with me. And after fighting him for a little bit, I gave in, and that was my birthday, December 23rd, 1995, and I had just turned 40. Happy fucking birthday, right? So they took me to the emergency room, they x-rayed my lungs, and sure enough, pneumonia. A particular kind called PCP, which is a bacterial form of pneumonia that's very, very, very deadly. And I'd had that, no doubt, for quite an amount of time, maybe 5 or 6 months. Stubborn me. Which, according to the charts and to the fact sheet, makes you from HIV to full-blown AIDS. And that was a total wow for me, and it made me get back on medications. But it was interesting. That night after the next night, it was Christmas Eve, and I had started antibiotics, and usually those things take a while to work, and sometimes they don't even work. But I had had some, and I was lying in bed that Christmas Eve, and I was sort of just like numb. I mean, probably a couple weeks before that, I had actually fallen when I went to the bathroom, and I couldn't get up. And I remember thinking, just lying there, oh my God, I'm lying in my bathroom, not being able to move. And I remember thinking, I'm not going to tell my folks this because it will scare them. And I just remember thinking, I can't believe this is happening to me. So that's the situation I was. I was barely able to walk, move. I was so weak. And I was lying in bed and not thinking anything really. And then suddenly there was this presence around me. The best way I can describe it was like this silky light that enveloped me. It had this pulsing wave all around my whole body. And it was about maybe 2 feet on either side of my body, totally enveloping me. I had no idea what it was. And then it had a voice. And it wasn't a voice that, like you're hearing now, but it definitely was a voice inside of me. And a very strong one that said to just breathe in this light, to breathe it in. Breathe it in, Doug. It actually called me by name. And I resisted. I said, no, I'm not going to breathe in this light. What is this? This is too creepy. And after probably about 30 or 40 seconds, it's hard to tell amount of time, but somewhere around there, I did take a big breath in. And I breathed it in. And honestly, and now you'll relate to this, but maybe not the other end of it, it felt like I was having an orgasm without actually coming. I was feeling this immense bliss, this filling up of pure, immense joy and just this bliss and happiness. That's the only word I can describe for it. And it probably lasted maybe, again, it's hard to tell, but maybe 30 seconds to a minute, where I was just enveloped in this blissful feeling. And fast forward to Christmas Day. No, it was actually, that was in the afternoon, so it was later that day. I don't really remember this, but my mom, I went upstairs apparently. My mom said that I was up there in the kitchen talking to my mom like nothing had ever happened. And she was amazed that I had so much energy and everything seemed to be normal. And there I was just chatting away like nothing, I wasn't sick at all. In fact, it seemed to like just go away right after that happened. Everything was normal. I guess I was healed. Now, there's a tendency to want to put labels on this, that it was the divine light of Christ, that it was the celestial energies of the universe. I have no idea what it was. But I do know that it happened. It was very real and tangible. And after that, I was great, feeling great. So call it a healing, call it whatever you want, but it was real. And to this day, I don't even quite know what it was. I don't know if I ever even need to label it. If you feel like you need to label it, go for it. But it may show you that there are things beyond us that are there for us and that do exist, as real as the air that we breathe. And that can't be denied. For me, anyway, it happened. Now, I put in my story at the end of my blog something special that happened on Christmas with my mother, and I'll just let you read about that when you read the blog post. And I start off my blog post actually by talking about that a few years before that, a number of years before that, I had listened to Mother Teresa's quote about how there is a light in this world more powerful than any evil that could exist. I'm just paraphrasing. But at the end of my blog post, I quote verbatim Mother Teresa's quote, because there is a light in this world, and it's there. Sometimes it's hard to see. Actually, she says this, but when you really need it, it appears. So that is my little personal story for you, and I don't know if you'll get anything out of it or not, but I just felt like I wanted to tell you a little bit more about my story, and there'll be many more to come. You know, we all have stories to tell, and I'd love to hear yours, because we are all part of this immensely beautiful planet that has a purpose to everything. It ain't always easy to see or hear or feel, but it's there, just by flipping a switch of awareness. That's it for today. Enjoy your November, and we headed to Thanksgiving, and there is much to be appreciative for. And the people that are commenting on my videos, you are one of them. So thank you. Here we go.